Margaret, thanks so much for sitting down with me. Much appreciated. We're here at the Upov meeting of the working group Biochemical and Molecular Techniques, the BMT. Is your employer NIAB using these techniques?
Yes, we use them quite a lot for research purposes mostly. We have a pre-breeding group and we do a lot of genetics work, so a lot of the markers are being used in that field. We use them specifically for DUS under a national listing scheme, so we validate DUS samples with the VCU samples just to ensure that it's the correct variety that's being tested.
Any other purposes for which you use these tools?
Well, within seed certification, we've used it to confirm variety identification. So where we've had a problem with control plots, and then we've used it just to confirm that the seed from the field is actually the variety in question.
This week we've been hearing several presentations by national DUS examination offices, but also by companies using a lot of these tools. In your opinion, should DUS offices be using more of these tools?
I'm not sure about should. I think they definitely could, but obviously it's up to the national authority to decide whether or not they should.
Sure.
But there is an awful lot of information out there, a lot of techniques that could be used in this way. So yeah, I think it is definitely a possibility.
Yeah, sure. And for the companies, it has been quite common to use these tools for DUS offices. It's more recent. Do you see a trend amongst DUS offices?
We obviously take our lead from the industry. So plant breeders are using it, therefore it's becoming more acceptable, I think, for testing authorities to use it. Previously there had been a bit of a conception that there would be a reduction in minimum distance, to use one marker to say that a variety is distinct, which in my opinion was never going to be the way forward. So yeah, I think it's become more acceptable within the breeding community as well as within the testing world.
So Margaret, we're seeing several countries who are, I would say, quite ahead with embracing these technologies, whereas other countries are hesitating more. Should we and could we bridge that gap?
Yeah, I think it would depend on the reason for the gap. So some countries are not embracing the technology because they don't have the facilities. So they don't have the equipment or the expertise to be able to introduce these techniques into their testing systems. Whereas I think for some others, it's more of a hesitation towards the technology itself. So I think with the hesitation ones, it's probably about education, just being part, what we're doing here really does help, having the conversation, highlighting the benefits, but also highlighting the pitfalls, because obviously it's not going to be a perfect system. So you must understand the kind of benefits and the negatives. And then that makes it easier to embrace. If you understand what the downfalls are, then obviously you kind of accept those rather than just fear them.
In terms of challenges when using these techniques, obviously the costs are one of the challenges. Are there other challenges?
I would say that the development cost is probably the main challenge. Yeah. It's not so much the routine costs, because actually once you've got the development down, it's quite cost effective to run the markers. It's trying to develop them and to kind of introduce them into your system would be the difficulty. I think apart from that, it would just be communicating with the applicants or communicating with people in the industry, just so that they're aware, so that there's no kind of fallout from introducing them. Bring everybody along with you rather than surprise people.
This week we've been hearing a lot of developments, good developments, fast developments. Some countries profiling tens of thousands of varieties in multiple crops. Overseeing these fast developments, do you think that eventually variety testing will all be about molecular tools?
No, I don't. I really don't. I think plants are plants. breeders breed because they like plants, testers test because they like plants, and I think it's all part of a system as well. So if a DUS test was all done in a molecular lab, then you would need to have seed testing and seed certification, and everything else down the chain would have to be molecular. And I can't see a farmer driving around with a PCR machine in his tractor. So I think there will always be a place for field-based techniques.
I think so. Yeah.
And you're my favourite.
So for the UK, it's very exciting times with Brexit in the very near future. In fact, and maybe you don't know this, a few minutes ago I received on my phone apparently that a deal had been reached between the EU and the UK, and Juncker was making an announcement. What will Brexit change to your work?
In the long term, I honestly don't know the answer to that. I don't know what the deal was, so it's very hard to decide.
Yeah, sure.
But in the short term, for the crops that I work on, which are agricultural crops, we have a very strong breeding industry in the UK, and I think there's a lot of support for that. So I do feel that the DUS testing has a positive future. But long term, who knows what will happen?
Yeah. No, and I think you're right. DUS testing will always be necessary. So that has certainly a strong future. One may also think about pro-innovation. UK has always been very much pro-innovation. So there might be some small upsides to Brexit on that side as well.
Yeah, I do feel that we have to look for the opportunities. This is happening, whether we like it or not. So we'd have to try and at least get some benefits from it.
Okay. Let's look for the opportunities.
Yes.
Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you.